imagine, for a moment, that you are a king. You command absolute power over millions of people. Your armies are seemingly endless. Your palaces overflow with wealth. And yet, you're afraid. You're terrified to make a single crucial decision about war, about famine, about your own family, without first asking your long-dead ancestors for their blessing. This wasn't some fantasy. This was the world of the Shang Dynasty in ancient China more than 3,000 years ago. I'm Steph, and welcome to Illumination, where we bring the past into the light. And tonight, we're going to illuminate a civilization that, for millennia, was little more than a whisper, a ghost in history. For hundreds and hundreds of years, a profound mystery lay buried right under the feet of Chinese farmers. As they worked their fields, they would often dig up these old, brittle, inscribed bones. But to them, these weren't clues to a lost world. No, they were something else entirely. They were dragon bones, a powerful ingredient for traditional medicine, meant to be ground into a fine powder and sold at the local pharmacy. Just think about that. An entire forgotten chapter of human history was being brewed into teas, unknowingly consumed as a simple cure for a headache. The gap in our understanding here is just immense. We're talking about a chasm of 3,000 years that separated the collapse of this powerful kingdom from the day we rediscovered it. For all that time, the Shang were known only through texts written long after they were gone. And because of that, many serious scholars just dismissed them as a myth, a kind of invented golden age to give China a grand origin story. They were a ghost in their own land, until one man, through sheer chance, brought them roaring back to life. And the story of that discovery, well, it's just incredible. This wasn't the result of some great archaeological dig or a painstaking search for a lost city. It all came down to a simple, accidental moment of observation, and it happened in the most unlikely of places. So, the year is 1899. A respected scholar by the name of Wang Yirong is sick, and like many others, he's prescribed a remedy of dragon bones. But as he's looking at these bones right before they're about to be ground into dust, he sees something. Something that generations of people had missed, carved into the surface, were characters. It was writing, an ancient, almost alien form of Chinese script that no one living had seen for thousands of years. And in that one single moment of recognition, everything changed. Well, after that, the secret was out. These obviously weren't the bones of mythical dragons. Scholars and archaeologists scrambled to trace them back to their source, to a place near the modern city of Anyang. And when they started to dig, they found something that must have felt impossible: the ruins of a massive capital city. And deep inside that city, they found pits filled with tens of thousands of these inscribed bones. It was the royal archive of the Shang Dynasty. The myth was real. So what were these things exactly? What are oracle bones? Well, they were, in essence, a technology for communicating with the spirit world. The Shang kings would use the flat shoulder blades of oxen and, what they prized most of all, the plastrons, the flat undershells of turtles. They believed these were a sacred medium, a direct line to the spirits of their ancestors, who held immense power over the world of the living. And what's so amazing is what's actually written on them. These aren't long histories or grand poems, they're questions. Tens of thousands of very specific questions. They give us this direct, unfiltered peek right into the minds of the Shang kings. They show us their deepest fears, their everyday worries, and the things they cared about most. The whole process was a deeply serious ritual. First, a royal diviner would carefully carve the king's question right onto the bone. Then, they'd take a hot bronze rod and press it into little hollows they drilled into the back. This intense heat would cause the bone to crack, often with a sharp, popping sound. Now to them, the pattern of those cracks wasn't random at all. It was a message, a direct answer from the ancestors. And then, finally, they'd inscribe the question, the interpretation of the cracks, and sometimes even what actually happened later, right there on the bone, creating a permanent record. The sheer variety of questions they asked is just fascinating. Some of them are so personal, so relatable. They asked about the weather, about hunting trips, about dreams. For instance, a king's toothache wasn't just a minor pain. Oh no. It was a matter of state, a possible sign that an ancestor was displeased. It was a cosmic event that required a spiritual consultation. But then you find other questions that carry the full weight of the kingdom. The birth of a child to the queen, and especially whether that child would be a son to continue the royal line, that was a matter of intense anxiety. The future of the entire dynasty wasn't something you left to chance. It was a topic of constant, urgent conversation with the spirit world. And this is where the questions take a profoundly darker turn. Here we see the chilling intersection of their religion, their politics, and a practice that is deeply shocking to us today: large-scale human sacrifice. Winning a battle wasn't just about having the best soldiers, it was about pleasing the ancestors, and the most powerful offering you could make was human life. And this reveals the great paradox of the Shang people. On the one hand, they were masters of art and technology. They developed a writing system so successful, it's the direct ancestor of the one used in China today. But on the other hand, all of this incredible sophistication was built upon a foundation of ritualized, shocking brutality. This is the central tension of their entire world: bronze, writing, and blood. Their brilliance is just undeniable. They perfected a complex technique for casting bronze that allowed them to create these ritual vessels with a level of detail that is just breathtaking. These are objects that even today, modern experts find incredibly hard to reproduce. And their writing, the script we first see on these bones, it has evolved over time, but the chain has never been broken. It is a continuous, living link from their world to ours. But for every one of these brilliant achievements, there was a dark truth. When archaeologists began to excavate the great Shang royal tombs, they found more than just treasure. They found bodies, people, servants, guards, companions, who were sacrificed to serve their king in the next life. And not just a few. In a single royal tomb, they found them by the hundreds. And the more you look, the more you realize you can't separate their achievements from their brutality. Those exquisite bronze vessels, their very purpose was for rituals that involved blood sacrifice. Those grand palaces and tombs, their foundations were consecrated with the bodies of human victims. And their great military victories, they were celebrated by sacrificing captured enemies, sometimes hundreds at a time. The brilliance and the brutality were one and the same. Sometime around 1046 BCE, the Shang Dynasty was overthrown by a rival group. But their culture, it didn't just disappear. In fact, despite their violent end, the Shang had already laid the cultural, political, and even technological groundwork upon which the entirety of Chinese civilization would be built. Their legacy echoes through the millennia. Now, when the Shang fell, their conquerors, a people called the Zhou, had a problem. They needed to justify taking power. So they came up with a revolutionary political idea, the Mandate of Heaven. They spread the story that the last Shang king was so wicked and corrupt that heaven itself had withdrawn its favor and given it to them instead. It was a masterful piece of propaganda. The reality was probably much simpler. The Shang were stretched too thin, they were weakened, and they lost a war. But the story the victors told, that idea would shape Chinese politics for the next 3,000 years. And the legacy of the Shang is truly still with us. Their ancient script is the direct ancestor of modern Chinese characters. Their profound reverence for their ancestors became the bedrock of the cultural practice of filial piety. And that Zhou idea, the Mandate of Heaven, became the fundamental concept of political power and legitimacy in China for millennia to come. So we're left with this. The Shang trusted the random cracks in heated bone to reveal the truth of the universe. To our modern minds, it seems strange, maybe even primitive, but it forces us to ask, what are our oracles? Every society is guided by unseen forces it trusts to predict the future, whether that's an economic model, a political poll, or the algorithm that quietly shapes our world. The Shang created things of breathtaking beauty, and they used them in acts of unspeakable violence. Both things are true. And understanding that paradox, that is how we truly begin to illuminate the past. Thank you for joining me on Illumination. I'm Steph.